Okay, one tip I'm going to give to you, which is going to be very unconventional, but it's going to be, you will see what I mean if you actually follow through with it. Right, so if you're so inclined, please get into astrology. And I know that sounds wild, but I cannot tell you how much this has helped me in my life. And I'm skeptical, so I am a spiritual person, but I love science, I love facts, but those things are not mutually exclusive. As we're finding out more and more, as I've been saying for like a decade, these things are interlinked and they're the same thing. Magic, science, science, magic, da 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 da, obviously. Anyway, it's not binary. It's a very colonial way of looking at it. Yeah, so I was very skeptical about astrology, 100%. Makes sense, okay? Astrology is ancient, with so many communities globally, and because it's been so accurate, there's tons of books, documents, like ancient like texts about this area, like recording everything. And obviously we've got like all these modern like devices and things where it's like super easy now. Before they would literally be like looking up and like using tools and being like working all that manually, and then manually working out your chart and things like that. So it's really easy. All you need is your time of birth, your date of birth, and the place that you were born. Anything that has a beginning can have an astrology chart, so you can literally use it for anything. Did you start a new work team? You can literally, when you started the work, like new job, in terms of like doing it, from that point on you can look up the chart. That's why you've got charts for like countries. That's how you can use it for political analysis. You've got your own chart, obviously. You've got charts of how other people's astrology charts mix with yours, so you can do like relationship analysis and stuff like that. I've had astrocartography, which is where you put your chart over the world and it shows what areas of the world that you would benefit from going to. And again, sounds wild, really accurate. Like I remember like I've had some astrocartography sessions where I've been like, okay, I'll test them. Like what would happen if I went to Burkina Faso, West Africa, and they were like, it would be really good if you like stuck to your work, but like in terms of romances and like personal life and stuff, if you kind of went off the like just focusing on work path, then it would just get really messy. And that's exactly what happened. I started dating like someone there locally, and yeah, I just don't think the international, because they're quite colonial now, I think about it looking back. It was like a volunteer organisation, but lots of those are like neo-colonial projects. That's something else. I digress. It's a bit of a tangent, but important. Oh yeah, I don't think they really expected us to like mix with and mingle with locals, so they didn't really prepare us for like the cultural differences. So long story short, I think I've upset quite a lot of people like by mistake. I didn't know I was autistic either, so I was off the rails a bit, but I don't know. Well, I don't think it was the worst ever. It was just, for example, my boyfriend had a wife that I didn't know about, and then her friend like came up to me and she was like, she's gonna beat the shit out of you, and I was like, what's going on? And like, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I think the point is, I tested out the astrocartography. Yeah, and it's really, really accurate. So, very cool. Then you can do medical astrology. Like if you have medical concerns, people can have a look at your chart, like going forward, and see if they can see anything that could be alarming, which for someone that has health OCD like me is really helpful. I haven't actually had that one yet, but that's one on my to-do list. You can literally use it for anything, basically. So some of the things that I have like known in advance of them happening, because of this, have been things like when Brexit was going to happen, when everyone else was like, when is it going to happen? I was like, I think in this period, and then it did happen in that period. Yep, I knew before the pandemic hit, loads of people in the astrological community knew that something was seriously significant was going to happen and change the whole world. And there were people in the astrological community that were saying there was going to be a pandemic, and then warned people in advance of that as well. Again, imagine if this was like a part of like policy making and decision making. Obviously it has to be carefully done and blah blah blah, but if we could like prove that it works, which you could probably prove with the amount of data that you have, even just in the sense of like, oh, this is what the astrologer said or what your chart said, and then that happening, like surely that is something that can be like used in terms of data and research, right? To be like, oh, something seems to be going on here. Anyway, lots of people in power, like truly the elite, will know about this as well. Like a lot of people use it for financial reasons, because obviously you can see a lot about the market in it as well. Oh yeah, another thing that I knew in advance, revolution in America, revolutionary vibes. I knew that was going to happen. It's happening now. You know, in terms of like lots of revolution, at least a lot of revolutionary behavior. Hopefully a nice revolution in the end. Yeah, so those are just some examples of it, but you can use it in your relationships. Like me and my partner do lots of combined chart analysis, and sometimes I'm having like a terrible day and I look at my chart and I can see why, and I'm like, oh yes, this is a really horrible aspect is impacting me. That makes sense. And that's a nice thing to know when you suffer with mental health problems, or you're neurodivergent, or you're just a person that's struggling in life, which is most people. That's nice to know that there are wider things than yourself. And even like, oh, there's just so much, I can just go on forever. I don't know, it's just amazing. Just please trust me. And you don't have to. If you're not comfortable, that's fine, obviously. But it's great. Oh my goodness. What else have I used it for? Yeah, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. It's very self-reflective as well. You get a lot of personal insights through this stuff because, oh, it's just incredible. So for my own chart, my ascendant, which means like how people interpret you and how people see you, is in Scorpio, which is like intense. That's basically my whole life, is intensity. Yeah. And how I impact other people. It's just like, I feel like I'm a bit like a punch in the face. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like for better or for worse, I'm just a bit like, bam. And then, I don't know, and then I'll leave. And then hopefully it's good. Sorry, I don't mean like, yeah, obviously punching people in the face is bad, but like, I'm just saying, do you know what I mean? Oh god. Intense, okay. Then I have Pluto, which is like Scorpio's main planet. It's so complicated, but it's, can't remember what it's called, but different signs have like planets that are like their favorites, or the ones that are like their domicile. Is it domicile? It's like their planet they're comfortable with. So my Pluto is in my Scorpio ascendant, which means it intensifies my intensity. okay. And then what else? Oh yeah. And then I have like a stellium at the top of my chart, which is like, so stellium means when you have lots of planets in one sign. So mine's in Leo, which means that like, well, when other planets, like day to day, the planets move, right? So when something kind of hits one of them, it hits quite a lot of them at once, which is another reason why when my life goes to shit, oh boy, does it go to shit. So like, it helps you to know that, to be like, oh yeah, I can see that this is a bit of a difficult period, hitting all these planets, hitting all these parts of my personality. So different planets are attached to different parts of you. So for example, and it's accurate. That's the point. It's like, yeah, I would not believe this normally. It sounds like nonsense, sounds mad. But then when you get into it, you're just like, oh, okay, that is spot on. So yeah, so my Mercury, which is like your communication style, again, mine's in Leo. Venus, what you appreciate, what you love, Leo. Moon, Leo. Chiron, how you deal with trauma, is in Leo. Guess what that means? It means that I'd be on TikTok doing poetry about my trauma, which if you can look at my timeline, that's what I do. And then obviously I got a book which is very public about my trauma and stuff like that. Not just trauma, obviously, but yeah. And it's just weird because I just have this impulse to like perform and like be on camera and be on stage, and even when I don't even want to be, like sometimes people just push me on stage, or like, and I end up being like the center, or the performer, or the center of attention, which is really Leo. Like, you know, it's more nuanced really, but anyway. So a lot of people are like, oh, but I don't like astrology because my main sign doesn't really match up with me. So that's probably because it's definitely because you have a larger chart, which lots of other things are happening in it. So I was like, oh, I'm not really into Virgo stuff, like Virgos are organised and blah, blah, blah. It's a bit, again, more nuanced, but when I learned about it, I was like, well, when I learned about the sign Virgo, for real, I was like, oh, yeah, that does make sense. But lots of other signs dominate my chart, so that's probably why I don't feel that identified with Virgo, even though I definitely am. When I fully learn about signs as well, you start to realise how relevant they are for you. If you know, like, if it's like pop culture quiz questions about what you think Capricorn means and stuff like that, that's different to really indulging into the signs and what they mean and all of the elements on the chart, because there's so many elements. So these are only like some small elements. There's many more elements that can give you much more further reading into it. So that's why people get professional astrologers, which cost like about £100 plus an hour. They record it so you can listen back and you can share it. And I think that's amazing that they record everything they say. It's almost like, look, this is proof about what I'm saying, and you can see it yourself operating in your life going forward, and keep listening back if you want. So that you need people often who are like professionals to really get into it. Yeah, it's just amazing. I'm so grateful. And it makes you excited about life, because every day, you know, you're living that magic and you're living all these things that you kind of know a bit about, and it just makes life exciting, you know. It makes things exciting, and you can use it to avoid danger. You can use it to avoid harm and illness, and not avoid, obviously we're all gonna get hurt, we're all gonna die and get ill at one point, but it helps you prepare for things, and it helps you to like get the best outcome. Yeah, there's just so much I could say, so I'm gonna stop now. Thank you. I wonder if there's anything astrologically relevant here. No, I do have a chart somewhere, but that's one for another day. Thank you. Peace. Don't feel pressured though. If you don't want to get into it, that's fine. But I'm just like, but it's just so helpful. Like, ugh. Yeah. Bye.